I went down there, it was the first Sunday it started out. I went down there about 7 o'clock at night, and I got turned away by highway patrols. It was like 7 of them. They shined a spotlight in my truck and everything, asked for identification. So I gave that to them. They told me, you know, not to come back around because it's very important business. So I said, okay. Then I went on around through Elk and tried to get a little closer, but they had one in the middle of the road there. So I turned around. I just came back to Bellmead, where I live. So,
the first day we got here,
but I think, you know, I don't think people are really going to give up. I think they're there to stay because they've been there since the 1950s. And the old people, I mean, the young people might give up, but the old people, it's like their home. I mean, that's all they know their whole lives. They're pretty well to stay there. My dad, he used to go out there, go fishing, and he talked to people and everything. Ate with them. He said they were nice people. They didn't, you know, they didn't mess with anybody or nothing. They stayed to themselves. They're real peaceful people. I mean, I don't know why this happened.
Yeah.
But I think if they would have had the sheriff come out there, you know, and talk to them, instead of all the ATF people coming out there, I mean, it scared them. All the ATF people coming out there with guns and
stormed the place, 150.
So they open up on them, you know?
It sounds like self-defense to me.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, they climbed up on that roof and knocked that window out and started trying to shoot in there.
Yeah.
That's when 4 ATF officers got killed. But I mean, if it happened to me, you know, all the ATF people coming out of horse trailers, you know, coming after me, I mean, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's a common thread in all of this, from Oklahoma City to the World Trade Center bombing to, of course, Waco. They always destroy the evidence and don't let locals in to document anything. What do they have to hide? If this was some murderous cult, as the TV shows told us, then what did they have to hide? Why do they always destroy the remains? This building was burnt to the ground, but they still bulldozed the entire foundation and pushed it up in a heap, in a monument to the wreckage of the police state. Welcome to the New World Order. We're standing at the entrance to the underground bus, the bunker that they had built because they believed in times of tribulation they would need something like this. Well, they ran over with the tanks and crushed the entrance so they couldn't get in to their underground bunker. And as a result, the men, women, and children died. Also, one of the tanks drove inside the structure, and this is even admitted to by the FBI, and there was a inside area where they stored food and things that was concrete, and they thought that was the safest area because most of the structure was wood right over there. They drove directly in and pumped CS gas, a banned form of chemical weapon, point-blank range into children's faces. They don't make gas masks that fit 2-, and 3-, and 4-year-old children, my friends. This is incredible. No matter what propaganda you want to believe, those babies did not deserve to be murdered by the black ski mask thugs. You didn't come out in the trial. You're some kind of provocateur. In fact, you're one of those FBI agents, aren't you? Hey, we're in the middle of one of our interviews right now. I know personally. I don't give a damn. Well, I don't give a damn about you either. Oh, yeah, you're not going to do anything to me. These people are murderers. These people are murderers. I'm sick and tired of hearing your lies when you machine gunned a bunch of men, women, and children. You got a big problem, buddy. You sit over here. I'm not afraid of you guys. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I'm sick of it. You sit over here and you talk about how the children huddled in the corner and how the ammunition that they had is what killed them, all the rest of your garbage. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You don't stand up for the Constitution. You stand for zip, not a zero. You have no calm aplomb. It's false, my friend. And let me tell you, a lot of people are writing down your names. You can follow people around. You can harass people. You can back up your bankster buddies. But a revolution of peaceful information is coming, and when it comes time, you people are going to be brought to punishment. You understand? Just like Nuremberg. Just taking orders doesn't cut it, my friend. You understand me?
I think I've assessed you.
Yeah, oh, you've assessed me. Listen, you can sit there and say some kind of little joke. All your textbook garbage, my friend. I got people like General Parton, ex-head of Air Force Weapons Development. We know the federal government destroyed Oklahoma. It's proven. We know what you guys are engaged in, just like Hitler burnt the Reichstag. We know you brought Nazis over here through the rat line to set up our CIA after the OSS. So you can't sit here. You can assess me all day. I want you to assess me. I've assessed you, a smiley-faced slime ball that sits here and soft pedals and tries to placate the media. Waco Rules of Engagement shows your agents machine gunning men, women, and children as they tried to exit. One of the inventors of flare technology, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, is on that documentary. He is of the establishment. Didn't you hear what I said?
If I had heard
No.
you, I would have to ask the question. Well,
Yeah, but we don't need this type of placating, somebody coming and saying, oh, I'm so sorry that we did this. We don't need that. We need indictments. Then you need to go and you need to call for indictments of Janet Reno. Okay. Are you calling for an indictment of Janet Reno? Harriman, Goering, and Drag. No. Are you? Oh, so you're not calling for Harriman, Goering, and Drag.
What about people who ran the tanks through this place?
Yeah. Well, here you have it right here. We're told that the bunker was here where the children cowered, where they drove directly in with the tank and pumped in the CS gas in point-blank range, and then they pushed all the rubble over there. So the bunker was somewhere over in this area. This is just more Big Brother, and we just went over there to one of the FBI negotiators who's now over here soft-pedaling things.
And not calling for indictments.
And he's not calling for indictments of Reno. Harriman, Goering, and Drag. You know, all these slaves are going to get what they ask for. The IRS bending people over all day and all night. It's a real pleasure to stand up to Big Brother and all his slimy cronies. Let's get out. Here with Bonnie Haldeman, David Koresh's mother. You know, I've seen you here today and talked to you some. You seem like a really gentle, nice woman. And that makes me think even more so that all the stories we heard in the controlled media were lies about your son.
They were lies. They were lies. Because he was a kind, gentle person too. Loved people, and his main goal in life was to help, save people's souls. And he didn't like anybody to be unkind to anybody else.
And he also told the BATF to come on over 2 weeks before.
He did. He told them several times to come out. They were in the gun shop one day and found out that they were there asking about him, and he said, tell them to come on over.
The sheriff knew him.
Sheriff Harwell knew him. And
the sheriff of this county said that he was a good guy and wasn't bothering anybody, and that this was a good community out here.
He had come out here many times, just in and talked to David, and Sheriff Harwell told me last year, he said, I'm sorry, Bonnie, what happened, if anything I can do for you.
Well, there you have it. Attorney generals, sheriffs here in Waco, the sheriff here in Waco, it just goes on and on. FBI crime lab chiefs. What more do you need? The documentation is there. What would you say to the public in Austin, Texas, if there's just a few statements that you want to make to them about how they can avert this type of tragedy happening in the future?
How can they avert it? Well, we need to stand up for what we know is right and to demand that investigations be done on what happened here and see if it doesn't happen again.
Indictments?
Indictments. And, we've got all of our family in prison that shouldn't be there. The jury of their peers found them innocent, and they're spending hundreds, of years in prison.
And that's very strange. Right here, you have the structure, and the BATF came up, knocked on the door, and when Koresh raised his hands and said, stop, let's talk about this, we have women and children, they opened fire, this is on the FBI's own tapes, into the front of the structure. This is even the edited tapes. And the door that's disappeared, lawyers and people that went inside said the bullets were going in from the outside. You can tell this for novices out there. When a bullet hits a metal door, it makes a small hole going in and a large hole going out. So this, again, government-sponsored terrorism in your country.
We'd already had breakfast, and I was back in my room, and all of a sudden I hear a lot of people out here in the cafeteria, and I thought, what's going on? Seems to be a lot of people out there, and we've already eaten, so what's the deal? So I go in there to find out what's going on, and somebody says, hey, we just got word that somebody's coming. It's going to be some kind of a raid or whatever. And about that time, David walked in from this side. He'd come down the hall, come in the cafeteria from this other side, and basically confirmed it. He says, we just heard that, there's a whole bunch of some kind of agents coming. And he says, I want everybody to stay cool, go back to your rooms, just be calm. He said, I'll go down the front door and talk to them, see what they want, and try to talk to them. So I went back to my room, I heard him walk down the hall, heard him open the front door, and next thing he's yelling, "Hey, wait a minute, there's women and children here, you know, let's talk about this." And all hell breaks loose. I mean, there's shots coming in the front door like crazy. And my initial reaction was run down the hall, because I figured there's going to be blood and guts everywhere, you know, a massacre. And I get about level with where we are, about halfway down the hall, and Perry Jones is crawling up the hall screaming that he's been shot. He'd gone to the front door with David, and he's telling me David's been shot. So I'm trying to comfort him. He's laying on the floor and screaming, and I said, "Hang in there, Perry," because I'm thinking there's all these other people dead inside the front door or whatever. So I go running down there, and lo and behold, there's no one inside, no one in the foyer area at all. So I run back to Perry, and I'm trying to help him. And
so on the tape, as we see the BATF from the outside firing in incessantly, you guys are just going around trying to look for people that have been shot.
well, that's,
You mean you guys aren't lining the windows shooting like the television shows us? I mean, like the made-for-TV movies? The movies aren't real?
There have been a lot more than 4 dead and 20 wounded if everybody had been there with a gun and automatic weapon shooting at them. You know, but no, that's not the case. In fact, I'd say most people were taken by surprise. Even though you were initially told somebody's coming, you don't realize that it's going to be a bloody mess. You know what I'm saying? You maybe have a little trepidation. Well, you know, are they going to be haul us all outside? Are we all going to jail? What's the procedure? You know, we didn't know what was going to happen. But David more or less said, well, you know, everybody stay calm. I'll go down and talk to him. So you figure, oh, he'll handle it. You know, and so next thing we know, all this shooting at the front door. People upstairs, of course, are hearing the shooting from the helicopters.
The helicopters came in from that direction, and they were coming, and as they came in, David's room was here, like this is the building, his room's extended out on the south side, and that's what they were pointing at. They were pointing at his room, and, and they came in shooting in a V formation, and I'll tell you, they just kept it up.
And with the infrared, with the explosion and the people, the flashes that we have on infrared, absolutely prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that people were killed. You know, law of averages would state that if there's 9 survivors, and I'm one of the 9, the people that survived came out of the side and the front of the building. The majority of the people were at the back of the building, in the cafeteria area. Law of averages would state that, you know, if 9 people survive from a fire, that people are going to come out of the back where the majority of the people are. And the fact that no one survived that came out of the back always escaped me. I could never understand why. I had a theory, but I could never prove it. This infrared video proves that beyond a shadow of a doubt, that people were killed. And now it's time to get the people that are in jail out of jail, and it's time to get these shooters, let's get their names, let's find out who they were working for, who was responsible, and get these people put away. You know, we want a constitutional government. We're not radicals in the sense that we want a revolution. No, we just want our government back.
This militarism, you know, we've never had a standing army before the Civil War. Now we've got this huge standing army with more than 200,000 troops permanently stationed overseas, the largest naval armada in the world since World War II in the Persian Gulf on a permanent basis. And that's not the land of the free and the home of the brave. We weren't cut out to do that. Here at home, you see things like Waco, which show that we carry over our militarism right into our churches to assault church people.
Well, yes, sir. My first question is, or my first statement about this is you're absolutely right. I mean, we have military training, people in black ski masks with the MJTF, multi-jurisdictional task forces, training directly with our local law enforcement in Austin, Texas, where I'm from, and I found out that this is a nationwide movement.
Sure it is, and the sad part is, you know, the cop is supposed to be our friend on the beat. He's the one that gets the cat out of the tree and takes care of the lost kids and stops someone from burglarizing a home and stuff like that. Instead, they love to be SWAT team. You know?
It's the thin blue line. They're teaching them. In fact, I've heard police
pretty thick blue line right now.
I've done interviews at protests and things, and the police walk up and say, stay behind the demarcation line. And you'll hear them talking, watch the civilians. They're using military terminology. Is this dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous. The paramilitary concept of police is a police state, you know. And our Constitution was created to prevent a police state. Yet our police expenditures, our creation of the fear of crime and the belief that you can solve crime by more prisons, by the death penalty, and by beating people in the head is crazy. It's just war with our own society. And you see it come to a head at a peaceful church in, outside of Waco, Texas.
Why April 19th? Why was April 19th so significant that the FBI felt compelled to take the actions that they took? There's never been a good answer for that. Jeff Jamar in the congressional hearings stated categorically that the reason why April 19th was picked was because the weather was good. Well, if you're putting gas into a building, having a high-velocity wind operative that can dissipate the gas doesn't mean that the weather was good. It means that it was bad. So what did he mean the weather was good? Was it good for a fire? Yeah. It was very conducive for an arson fire, but it wasn't very good for inserting gas that day. So what did Jeff Jamar mean? No one asked him that question. Well, the first film certainly raised all the right questions. Didn't always have all of the answers. So I've spent some additional time and effort in trying to get better answers to the questions. Who shot first on February 28th? Was there really gunfire from the helicopters? Did the FBI shoot at the Branch Davidians on April the 19th in spite of their protestations? Who were the people at the back of the building shooting at the Branch Davidians on April the 19th? What was involved with the explosion on the top of the bunker during the course of the fire? I think what went on here, and the fact that it wasn't documented by the media the way it should have been, probably has something to do with why you have a TV show and a radio show. You're not exactly mainline, but on the other hand, the birth of that type of communication is a good thing, because it gives the mainline media something to think about next time they want to kowtow to the people of the Justice Department for fear of losing news sources. So perhaps it's a good thing, and perhaps there is good that's come out of the situation at Waco. I mean, in terms of, do I think that, do I have any idea why the media isn't doing their job? I don't know. You have to go ask them. That's what you ought to be doing right now, is asking these guys why they haven't done their job relative to that.
Well, they're just errand boys. They're just out getting the footage. It gets cut up back home.
Yeah, and what you have to do is go and find the editors.
I've done it.
And put them on camera and ask them, why is it you haven't run these stories?
Let's go ask
yes, sir. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
I'm serious. Have you seen Waco Rules of Engagement? You have? So you have seen the inventor, the man that holds three of the 4 patents on flare technology, telling you that those are sniper points firing automatic weapons. What do you think about that?
I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was a different perspective than I had heard before. I don't know that I will base any definite opinion on it, but I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a different perspective, and it taught me something I didn't know before.
Dividing black against white, white against black, woman against man, child against parents. Why do you allow this? Why do you allow yourselves to be manipulated and controlled? It is very saddening, and it is wrong, but it's something that we as Americans have got to stand up to. All we asked KI to do was report the facts. We refuse to be part of your lies. We refuse to submit to your lies, and we're going to continue to stand up.
There's been documented evidence as far as FBI snipers firing on people running out of the back of the church there at Waco. That was documented from a FLIR tape, which stands for Forward-Looking Infrared Radar, by the gentleman who invented FLIR technology. He reviewed that tape and said that those were FBI snipers firing at many of the people that were trying to escape from the burning church there at Waco. And we have seen no mainstream news reports on that. That was in a documentary that was put out that actually got nominated for an Academy Award. Have you ever spoken in the newsroom about things like that, or talked about reporting anything like that?
Sorry, I can't answer any questions.
If you heard about stuff like that, do you think you might be interested in possibly looking into doing stories on things like that?
I'd suggest you call my news director.
Okay, what's his name so I can talk to him?
Well, what happened up at Waco 5 years ago the sheriff, and I've seen him on tape saying that what the media was saying, most of it wasn't true about that group of people up there, and that David Koresh was in town all the time, and that he knew him personally, and that he knew all the people. He just said that the feds just came right in with tanks. They should have got in trouble for that too. Law enforcement trained out at Fort Hood, and then began to engage in that. What would you do if you had a similar situation here in Austin, Texas, and the feds began to ignore your input?
Well, I think that the reality is that local law enforcement always has to remain in control. I mean, I hope that we all have learned some lessons from Waco, you know, as far as the fact that if you have someone, the stories as far as the different arms and weapons that were supposed to be in the compound, if who I'm looking for is David Koresh, you know, I'm going to wait till he's in shopping and nab him then. I mean,
instead of killing 17 little children.
Yeah.
We'd like to hear her tell the truth about what happened at Waco in 1993.
After her speech, the Attorney General agreed to 20 to 25 minutes worth of questions, which turned out to be almost an hour's worth. The folks who protested outside had their opportunity inside.
When are you finally going to come clean about the mass murder and using high-level special operations killers to kill Americans for publicity?
Are you going to indict the tank drivers and the commanders?
Reno refused to comment on the Waco incident, saying she does not comment on pending matters.
These pieces of equipment were unarmed, as I understand it, and were contracted. I mean, it was like a good rent-a-car.
A good rent-a-car? A tank going into a building?
I want to talk about the spiritual battle that's going on. You speak about the Illuminati in this book, which I think is significant because you are such a public figure. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit, just like a quick overview about the Illuminati?
Well, the Illuminati its original name was the Order of the Illuminati, or the Order of the Devil. And they were people who were aristocrats, intellectuals, people who did not believe in God, who believed in rationalism, as it was called in Europe, in the belief that you could be illuminated as in Illuminati, as was Lucifer, which is why he was thrown out of heaven, and that pious religious belief is corny, based on superstition, and that each person can, if they follow the dictates of the devil, which they call Baphomet, or Lucifer, or we call Satan, that you can become God. And there's no need for a God. Now, that is a statement of fact. It was organized by Adam Weishaupt in Ingolstadt University in Bavaria, Germany. It succeeded down through the years. And it was organized in 1776. May the 1st, which is where May Day comes from. And people think May Day is a celebration of communism. It isn't a celebration of the Illuminati. Communism is a manufactured, phony political concept of the Illuminati. So the Illuminati plays on both sides. But this was in 1776. As a matter of fact, on the American dollar, when you see "In God We Trust," pious Christians, Jews, and Muslims believe it means the Creator God, but it really refers to their God because they have the seal of the Illuminati on the dollar bill. As a matter of fact, at the base of the pyramid on the seal, if you take the 9 Roman numerals, split them into 3 each, 666. Add up the bottom, you get 666. So they're everywhere. But it should not surprise anybody, although it does, because people don't think anyone is this mean to do this. But there are people who believe in God, as you and I do. There are people who believe in goodness, as you and I do. But there are people who believe that there is no God, that there is a devil, who believe in evil. And in my book, I simply document that. And that's simply a part of a generational, passed along religion that has remained underground for very obvious reasons. And they focus on... Yes, they focus on the accumulation of wealth, and their religion is this Illuminism.
But the victory will be in politics as far as I'm concerned. The victory will be an endorsement of a philosophy. I believe in my heart of hearts the victory in 1998 is going to be good for Texas, and that's the most important thing about the campaign.
Shouldn't we abolish the Federal Reserve and the CFR? That's the real reality that none of you will talk about, and most of you are members. That's what's destroying this country, Governor. Don't you stand for America, sir? What about the Federal Reserve and the CFR? You people are being lied to. This country's been taken over by Europe, and I'm being drug out. Laugh at it. It's funny, isn't it? Let's grab an arm.
Grab the book.
I want y'all to know my family is a well family. Go ahead. Public assembly. Okay. Where's Carr? I got some cuffs. Let's take him right here, up against this glass. Let's trap him on the glass. Okay. Take that out, Sam. Congressman Doggett, my name's Alex Jones. I'm here to ask you about the Council on Foreign Relations. Okay. And the come on in. Okay, well.
Won't let us film inside, sir.
Yes. Okay. We just have a couple short questions for you. Fine. I'm with KJFK Radio. And we're concerned about the loss of sovereignty of our government and the secret organizations like the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, that Ramsey Clark from your own party was a guest on my radio show, and I've also got an interview for TV. Is Ramsey still a Democrat? Yes, he is. Well, he was an attorney general, and he is what you call a real liberal, not a wolf in sheep's clothing. There's also a lot of Republicans, like Congressman Ron Paul, who is a sitting congressman right now. I'm sure you know him, who is alerting us about the problems that we're having with the United Nations and world government. What's your opinion on that?
Well, my opinion is that we need to be concerned with the interest of our people here at home, first and foremost, and of the United States. But I think that there's a role for us to play in the United Nations, and that we need to be involved in international organizations.
And that's why we're losing our sovereignty in this country, because of doublespeak. But hey, get ready. Listen to his comment on the Federal Reserve. He says that the Federal Reserve needs to remain secret. Listen to this. Unbelievable. A private banking institution that controls our banking system for profit, with a 7-member board, which 2 of which are appointed. But listen to Doggett.
Just a few more questions, sir. What is your opinion of the Federal Reserve, 80% of the stock being private and only 2 of the 7-member board being appointed?
I think we need to continually reassess the situation at the Federal Reserve. Some of its operations may well need to be in secret, but I've always felt that the more openness you can get in government, the more public participation, the better the policy usually works.
Did you just hear what I just heard? Textbook doublespeak, lying. You shouldn't just accept that from politicians. That's why we're the shape that we are in today. He just said that the Federal Reserve needs to be in secret, but that he's for openness in government. What does that mean?
What is your opinion of the flare footage that came out in '93 in the Senate and now in Waco Rules of Engagement, which was up for an Academy Award, that shows the Fed's own flare footage as they machine gun men, women, and children?
I've not seen the flare footage, and I would be pleased to take a look at it and respond after seeing it.
What would you do if you saw the footage and saw that? Would you call for more investigations?
Well, I want to see what it is before making any decision on it.
We need somebody to come hold this flag while we shred it.
All right, let's all hold it.
Hold it. We say to tyranny in the United Nations.
Get it, Alex.
Death to the New World Order. Death the idea of losing our sovereignty. We don't like this flag, and we're sick and tired of it. We stand for this country, and we will defend it. The United Nations is a tyrannical, authoritarian propaganda arm and military arm of international control. And to it, we refuse to submit. That's all that's going to be left of the UN if they keep pushing their lies. The loss of U.S. sovereignty has gone too far.
I had to call you and tell you that I've read the Constitution. I know what's going on in the country. I know about Rex 84. I know about FEMA.
I've been around at the national parks. I've seen the executive orders. I know what's going on in this country. From Oklahoma City, the World Trade Center bombing, the October 29th, New York Times 28th even admits it, got a copy of it in my car, that the BATF and the FBI helped the terrorists cook the bombs. Andre Strassmeyer, the Air and Republican Army, Carol Howe warned the FBI and the BATF. And it doesn't matter. Y'all stir up these hornets' nests to have media events to scare the sheep. And frankly, it's sick and it's sad. And it is the nature of power. That's all you are, is a Roman centurion and all the rest of your type. And I know there's a lot of good people that have left your agencies and have left all the apparatus of control. I want to know why you haven't seen Waco Rules of Engagement and why you won't comment. And you said you were 1,100 yards away from the back of the building where all the automatic weapons fire was coming from. You saw it. Sir, there's footage of it. There's tape of it. You want me to give you one of the tapes?
Yeah, I have to.
Perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps you're not a criminal.
Alex,
Perhaps you're just power hungry.
No.
Let him respond.
I have to say there was no automatic weapon fire coming from the back of the building. I'd like to see the tapes. I haven't seen those.
Well, they got them at the video store. Or why don't you call C-SPAN and get a copy from them?
Okay, I'll do
They
that.
aired it on TV, and that's how controlled our press is.
Okay.
You scare me. Seeing our local police training with you guys with black ski masks, and we've gone up from 390,000 police officers to 490,000 police officers, and they're building helicopter bases here in Travis County. Damn it! We've been sucked off for so long. We pay 62% in some form of tax. We just wallow around and beg like a bunch of little feet, and it isn't good enough because you're insecure, and deep down inside you can make the rationales all day. We're self-righteous. We're doing what's right. I'm nonviolent to the end, defending my country from what's coming. And we see it building up. We see it preparing while President Clinton wallows over in China. So to you, you have no soul if you do not come to grips with what really happened in Waco, because you obviously won't even comment on all the missing evidence and on everything else that is happening, the front door to the flare footage, and then to Oklahoma City with the seismographs and General Park. And it's so much. There's so much going on. So much evil, so much tyranny, so much barbarism. What do you think when you walk into your office and there's all these little fleets of minions? It's sad to me. They need to go work for the mob or something. At least there, they can sleep with themselves at night. They're not acting like they're not criminals.
I told it to the grand jury. I was in the back of the building, and the 3 helicopters came in shooting. And what they were doing was peppering David's room. In fact, when Jack Zimmerman got up in the trial, he said he had been in there, and it was like Swiss cheese. Now, they tried, before the shooting started, there was no shooting going on. The first thing I heard was the sound of the helicopters like they were on top of me. And then I went to the window, I saw the shooting, I heard the shooting. I finally, 3 months later, realized that they came in trying to kill David, because his room extended out on the south, from the south of the building, and that's where they were hitting with all their rounds. I was the only one apparently that saw that. And they were on the northeast side of the building. They turned to go to the northwest. I dropped to the floor because I could see that the helicopters were between the 2nd and 3rd floor. And I began to question what I had seen. It was such a shock to me, I couldn't believe it. I've seen plenty of war movies. I came through the Second World War. But I never saw it, in fact, in reality. And when they did turn, everything was very dead quiet. And then after they had turned, and you understand, I didn't see anybody in the helicopters. They asked me that. I said, no, I was looking at them face forward. But there was a girl up in the 3rd floor. She was a person that had a 50 to 80% of her body affected by the fire. She's over in England now. But she gave her story, and when she did, I heard it. And when I heard what she said, she looked out her window, which was where the helicopters were turning to go to the front of the building. She saw the men in the helicopters that were had guns, that were doing the shooting. And she confirmed what I had seen. And so I know who shot the first shots. And I told them who shot the first shots. Now, by the time they get to the front of the building, see, I saw the two trailers come in. I was on the bottom floor, and I took the newspapers up to my room, threw them on the bed. I was going to lay down and read them. That's when I heard the helicopters. By the time they turned around to the front of the building and then turned to continue firing, then all hell broke loose there. When I went out into the corridor to leave, I left the 2nd of March with the tape that David made the 1st of March in the evening. When I walked out, there wasn't a window that had any glass in it. All the Venetian blinds were hanging on one side. Now, I know there was nobody at those windows because all the women lived in those rooms and they were on the floor over the children to protect them. And they said they didn't shoot until they saw somebody in a window. All I have heard from you and from all the things that has been said by our wonderful government is lies.
After years of denial, the FBI has finally admitted it used flammable devices that final day.
What was the reason for the fire?
When they saw we weren't going to give in, they had to get rid of us. They had to get rid of us. They had to cover up everything that had happened.
There's always new federal lies that we are forced to counter here.
Texas talk radio personality Alex Jones has been crying murder and cover-up from day one of the Waco horror.
These are thugs who wanted to engage in terrorism against the American people. And I say their terrorism has failed, and this horrendous lie is starting to unravel.
Come on in to the sanctuary itself. There are essentially just pews on both sides of the center aisle.
While another investigation is underway into what really happened near Waco, a group of Austinites is organizing a new future for the Branch Davidian land. They want to build a church and memorial for those who died in the fire.
It's going to be basically right in exactly the same spot where one or more of the buildings burned down.
It's the same group of Austinites who helped build a house for a World War II veteran. Joe Campagna's home was about to be bulldozed by the city when volunteers stepped in.
After experiencing the Joe Campagna story and the media and others helping and the community coming together, I realized, hey, we can rebuild this for the people that died there, for the children that died there.
All right, Alex Jones says he received clearance now to build on the property from surviving Branch Davidian Clive Doyle. He says they need volunteers and materials and hope to start building sometime this weekend.
Topping tonight's news, a scene of mass destruction becomes a foundation for a new beginning. Good evening, I'm Kim Barnes.
And I'm Phil Scott. Austin volunteers are rebuilding a chapel on the site of the Branch Davidian compound near Waco. The compound burned down in 1993 after a 51-day standoff between Davidians and federal agents. Davidian leader David Koresh and about 80 followers died. KV24's Joel Thomas reports on the new plans for the property.
I've known the Branch Davidians a long time, and I think they're good, God-fearing people. I think they were demonized.
Raise your hand if you need to have instructions.
Most are galvanized by the thought the federal government murdered the Davidians. They videotape deputies who come to hurry them along. They don't trust law enforcement anymore, or the media. With donated materials and labor,
take exit number 339.
They receive directions. Head to ground zero.
We're going to rebuild it.
Waco. At the Davidian compound, the work begins even as the convoy pulls in.
We're just thankful to God that there are certain people in this country that still got a spirit of assistance and wanting to do, something to show their sympathy and their concern for what happened here, and we appreciate it.
And Forth is investigating government tactics during the siege and whether the FBI covered up its use of incendiary tear gas grenades on Mount Carmel 6 years ago. While more information on the 51-day siege continues to surface, some Austinites packed up their tools today and headed north up I-35 towards Waco. Their mission is to build a church on the grounds of Mount Carmel. Lisa Hanna has the story.
There'll be 2 blue.
After just a week of planning, dozens of volunteers from across the state gathered at Mount Carmel to build a church. It's a project that was started by Austin radio talk show host Alex Jones.
We're going to build this church back. I've talked to surviving Branch Davidians, and they concur with my idea to have it a church and at the same time a memorial and a museum for what happened right here on this very ground in 1993.
It's called the Phoenix Project, a church that will rise from the ashes of the Branch Davidian compound.
I think it's important that we have a place to worship again after our church was destroyed.
Volunteers are doing all the work. Volunteers such as Austin contractor Mike Hansen.
We just think it's the right thing to do.
Jones says the 50 by 50-foot church is more than just a building. He says it's a symbol of what happened here more than 6 years ago. Jones calls it an attack on religious freedom, and others say they feel the same way.
Coming out here today has convinced me that some evil was done here 6 years ago.
There has been tremendous volunteer response to the church rebuilding effort, and one Davidian survivor says she at first doubted the volunteers would come.
When I looked and saw the people and how they're helping, I didn't think anybody had the guts to do it. But I'm finding out, and I know there are people outside that agree with us. They're just afraid to speak up.
Alex Jones, who has helped to lead this effort, says volunteers of all levels of experience have joined together to rebuild the church on Mount Carmel, and they will try to help heal the spot of this Waco siege.
Our main goal is to just try to bring some healing to what happened here. The government should really fix what they destroyed here, but we don't see that happening.
Alex Jones also said that any volunteers are welcome. They will be building the base of the structure sometime this week. Kelly?
Well, Melissa, are the workers going to be out there every day building the new church?
Well, actually, Mr. Jones said that they will be mainly working on the weekends, getting most of the work done on Sundays, but there will be a few people out there working throughout the week. Back to
Just in case you don't remember, let me jog your memory. In a church they called the Waco compound, back in April '93, 17 little children, all so helpless and so small, died a senseless death of gas and flames. How many names can you recall? 17 little children. Don't it make you wonder why? 17 little children. How could they deserve to die? Maybe we should stop and ask ourselves, have we become so blind? Will 17 little children finally open up your mind? How did you sleep last night, Bill Clinton? Tell me, did you feel their pain? As 17 little children cried out and perished in the flames. Attorney General Janet Reno, I accept your offer to resign. How can you stand for law and order now when you won't answer to your crimes? 17 little children, all so helpless and so small. 17 little children, how many names can you recall? Maybe we should stop and ask ourselves, have we become so blind? Will 17 little children finally open up your mind? I've heard it said the Branch Davidians only got what they deserved, yet no one seems to know what laws were broken, what was in the warrant they never served. Yesterday I sold my TV set, stopped my subscription to the Times. To me it's plain to see the media was an accomplice to these crimes. 17 little children, don't it make you wonder why? 17 little children, how could they deserve to die? Maybe we should stop and ask ourselves, have we become so blind? Will 17 little children finally open up your mind? Open up your mind.
Carmel Church burned to the ground in April of 1993.
Volunteers were hard at work this afternoon in their continuing mission to rebuild the Davidian church that was destroyed in 1993. The project began 6 weeks ago when Austin DJ Alex Jones and others from around the state and the nation decided they wanted the Davidians to once again have a place to worship. The continued effort of volunteers has inspired members of the church and given them a renewed sense of hope.
I think there's basic goodness in most people, and I think when they're given an opportunity to express it in a manner like this, it's good to see it brought out, you know, and activated on.
Workers will complete work on the outer structure of the building in the next few weeks and will then concentrate on the interior.
Yeah, that's it. Waiting on the summer of my soul.
Live with my Carmel Lives. I like that.
We just come out here every Sunday out here at Mount Carmel. This project will probably be going on for several galactic millennium. And now we'll get it done. We'll get this project done.
I would say there's in Waco there are probably just a handful of Branch Davidians. There are many more around the world. A lot of them have, you know, because of what happened here, because of the judgment that happened here, they have they're waiting, sitting on the sidelines, waiting for something to happen here that they might recognize as a call of God. And I believe that there will be many more, you know, stand up and be counted, because they'll recognize that God is working here. And even even if it's just a political coming together, that's still, you know, in the works with God. I mean, that doesn't always have to be a spiritual thing. It can also be a political thing. Bringing people together of like minds to against the adversary of our souls and our freedom, which could, you know, the one world order could very well be what is going to come against us at this time. So, although there are only a few, unless and far between, there's a lot that want to stand up and be counted, but they're just waiting and waiting. And I hope that this building is going to give them something. It's going to move them to see that God is doing something. There's something else that I'd like to add to what I said earlier. Everyone is welcome to come here and to share their views, whether it be political or whether it be spiritual. We're all trying to learn what God has for us and what God has done here, and we need everyone's input. So I'm inviting you all, especially those that have donated and have helped in building this place, so we could have a place to come together. I'm inviting you to come to our services and to come to share what you feel moved you to help here. And again, I want to thank you all, and we appreciate all that you've done, everything. Thank you very much.
See that there? That is razor wire. That is so sharp. You can hardly touch it. It will cut you. They had some that was bigger. It was about twice the width of this. That's what I was looking for, but I don't see it here. But they put the razor wire in front of the windows. You know, they said they wanted the people to come out, but they put the razor wire in front of the windows, and there was no way that people could come out of those windows, which they could have crawled out of at any time with that wire there. That would have ripped them to pieces. You have no concept of how sharp that is.
Work on the new Branch Davidian Church continued today despite what builders call a setback in the project. Austin-based DJ Alex Jones, who has headed up the promotion and rebuilding of the church, was fired from KJFK Radio last week. Jones contends he was fired because of his promotion of the new church. KJFK Radio is not commenting this evening on the matter. Despite his firing, Jones feels strongly about the project and says he will continue to promote it.
The fact of the matter is, these people were murdered, and I'm not a Branch Davidian, but I still believe in their right to practice religion and not to be killed. Koresh could have been picked up in town at any time. And that's where I stand today, and we will complete the construction project. It will be done. Jimmy, rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated. You know, I get 30, 40 times the email and letters from my Genesis show. Out here, it's week 17, and I'm digging around out here in some of the rubble piles. We've been digging up household implements, knives, forks, scissors, batteries, and a lot of fragments, government grenades and tear gas rounds. We've also been finding a lot of different 50 cal rounds, 223 rounds for conventional firearms. Really interesting and historical. It's too bad the feds came out here and scraped away most of the topsoil and took the pieces of the storm shelter, the storage area inside where they killed the children with the shape charge, shipped it off to a landfill outside Waco and covered it up with concrete. We're trying to dig up what we can out here while we're constructing a new sanctuary. Very historical, and it's great to be a part of it.
My name is Cyrus. I was 8 years old when I died. I was burned alive at Mount Carmel, April 19, 1993. This is on that picture of the Waco, the new revelation, that showed the bodies of the children just burned to a crisp. No recognition, mission of it. This is how I used to look. He had blonde hair, blue eyes, freckles. He was a cute little guy, very smart, very intelligent. He says, why didn't I get a chance to grow up? You know, why couldn't they have had a chance to come and see all this and to know that so many people cared? Some of them, the parents were from Hawaii. They were, you know, they had come a long distance to come for truth. And they didn't expect they would end up dying.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we certainly thank you, ma'am. And Grandma.
Yes, Grandma. She's doing better.
Kids playing just like it used to be, huh, ma'am?
She remembers when her other children, the children she took care of every day, were babies.
Yes, ma'am.
She misses them very much.
I bet she does.
We all do. We all miss them. They've all been somebody who we used to see every day in the hallways and see their mothers taking care of them. And when you see this paper and then in the movies and all these different things, you talk about how they died.
Yes, ma'am.
And they talk about how they had bottles clutching, all melted to them. It's a horrible thought.
Yes, ma'am.
It's something that you can't dwell on much at all.
No, ma'am.
Put yourself at a stop sign and say, okay, I've gone as far as I can go. You can't think too much more about this. Find something else to do.
Smile.
Hey, here's an Australian half pence, my Clive's coin collection. Went to the fire, it's all burned. It's got a Joey right there that says Australia half pence. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Oh, it's one of Clive's coin collection we found.
Flip it over.
It's got a man's head. Pretty interesting. One of Clive's coin collection.
Thank you, Alex.
Oh, you bet.
It's been almost 7 years since the deadly fire ended the 51-day standoff between Branch Davidians and federal agents. But fire is still on the minds of the volunteers who are building a new church where the Davidian compound stood. Volunteers have been working on the church since September. Today they made it fireproof.
We've had threats out here probably about 5 different times about people that throwing matches out saying burn baby burn, and also we've had a couple of people say that they need to regenerate the land out here and they want to walk through the flames of this new church.
A company called Flamebusters Incorporated agreed to donate labor and the spray that will make the new building fire resistant.
Our main objective is to save lives, and people that feel more vulnerable will naturally have more of an attraction to take advantage of our services.
David Humphreys, Flamebusters president, says the non-toxic spray is one way of reducing the number of catastrophic fire losses.
It's the consistency of water, and it goes on just like water, and it remains dormant in the wood until it hits a flash point of 212 degrees, and then it reacts with the fire to form a crust over the wood to protect the wood, and at the same time it doesn't allow the wood or the fire to continue.
Once the fireproofing is completed, volunteers will put the finishing touches on the building. They plan to have it done before the 7th anniversary of the fiery end of the standoff on April 19th.
This you're seeing here is 21 days of work, 21 actual days of work, and we're going to change our strategy to try to get through by April 19th.
Ophelia, what do you think of the church rebuilding program?
I think it's wonderful. I really like the church. It looks so beautiful.
When you first heard about us talking about rebuilding it, did you think we'd really do it?
Yes, I never doubted it.
Wow. Because you knew Mike going way back, didn't you?
Yes.
The cameraman?
Yes.
Are you surprised that the government hasn't offered to help or hasn't done anything?
Oh, yes, I am.
You thought they would come out and help?
Right. Yes.
Why would you say that?
Because, well, you know, all the damage they've done to us. They destroy everything we had, and they destroy even our families and even ourselves, you know, because we had gone through a lot since then. My mother has been so sick since then. She's been so depressed, and she almost committed suicide. She was so depressed because of the loss of our family.
How many members of your family died?
6.
Who were they?
My only daughter and
What was her name?
Julie Martinez, and all her kids. There was 5 kids.
They had an opportunity to come out. Why did they decide to stay?
They were afraid. They were afraid to come out because you know what? We were looking at all the damage they were doing to us, and they were destroying everything, and so we were afraid to come out.
Well, I know a lot of people were afraid to come out. In fact, the federal government even admits, the military admits that the tactical teams on the ground during the siege, when they would tell people to come out and get some letters from their lawyers or letters from the government, and that they would throw flashbang grenades at them. Did you hear about that?
Yes. Yes.
You talk about damage. What type of damage were they doing with the tanks?
Well, they were destroying all our cars, and they were destroying all around the kids' motorcycles.
And Ophelia, to Americans out there that still believe the government's lying that you guys were bad people, what type of people are Branch Davidians? What was going on out here in '93? How would you describe life here?
Well, everything was peaceful. These were the happiest days of my life, believe it or not. We were so happy, and I was very, very happy to be here.
Was everybody nice to each other? And
Yes, yes. I've never seen anything like this before. You know, people from all nationalities, all cultures. We used to get along so well, like brothers and sisters.
we know that the federal government for several months before the attack, the initial attack by the BATF and the National Guard helicopters on February 28th, and of course this is the anniversary of that day, we know that they were staying in the houses across the street. Do you remember the story that Clive and others have told me about how the people that owned the property before the federal government moved in actually asked you guys for help and for free? A bunch of men went over and helped them fix it, and then they were surprised to see men with guns going in there and staying?
Yes. Yes,
Can you tell us a little bit about when the feds moved in across the street?
Well, they when they moved, they said they were students. They were university students, and but David never believed, and so you know we started getting acquainted with them, and David used to send people there to try to help and make friends with them. And they started to come over here to us, to visit us. I'm not sure if they came first, because they wanted to find out about what's going on here. I think that they shot the dogs first. Well, some of them shot the dogs, and some of them started shooting David and Perry.
So you're saying they drive up in the vehicle, they jump out, they run up, and in 10 seconds they start shooting the dogs and shooting the front door and shooting the building.
Yes. And then my daughter came in the room because she wasn't there, and she got me by my hand and pulled me down to the floor, and all the kids, you know, she threw them down on the floor. And
so you were shocked watching the men outside shoot. Your daughter pushed you down.
Yes, because the shooting was coming also through the front, through the ceiling.
Did you see any holes in the ceiling?
That's why she threw us on the floor.
Did you see any holes in the ceiling?
Yeah, oh yeah. The room was like a strainer. It was full of holes.
The room was like what?
Like a strainer.
A strainer? A sieve?
It was, yes. It was. There was so many holes in the room. I don't know how we didn't get killed then.
You know, by the grace of God.
Yeah.
Now, Catherine
because
Madison.
We were on the floor.
Now, Catherine.
And the shooting was coming through the ceiling and through the walls also. And I remember there was bunk beds. You know, there were bunk beds, and my Bible was on top of it, of the bed, upper bed, and they shoot it. They shoot my Bible. It had a big hole like this, my Bible. And I remember when I went out, I asked David, should I take my Bible like this? And he said, yeah, take it as an evidence. But when I got there, they took it away from me, and I had another Bible, a new Bible.
Oh, so they took your old Bible with the large hole.
Yes, and they took my new one too, and I never got it back.
How big was the hole in the old Bible?
Oh, it was about this big, In the,
where were you taken to jail? Where did they take your Bible?
I don't know. They took it away from me. That's all I know.
Well, Ophelia, thank you very much for talking to us.
You're welcome.
More progress was made today near Waco. A church is going up where the Branch Davidian compound burned down.
Volunteers, including Davidians, are laboring to have their place of worship finished by April. Channel 8's Laura Martin reports.
You can see it in their faces. They're serious about their cause, rebuilding the church at the Branch Davidian compound. Austin radio talk show host Alex Jones organized the effort. The materials are donated. Volunteers do the work.
Some weeks, as much as 150 people out here. On average, I'd say about 40, 50 people over the day.
It's taken us quite a while, but on the other hand, we've only been working on it like a day a week, so it's not really a long time when you consider the size of it and everything.
The church shell stands where the compound chapel stood before the 1993 fire that destroyed it and killed more than 80 Davidians. So far, $70,000 in donations for the new building have come in from Austin to North Texas.
Every piece of wood has been doused with a flame retardant. This too donated by a Dallas company, a $5,000 product.
Branch Davidian Sheila Martin watches the construction almost every Sunday. She lost her 4 children and husband in the fire and longs to tell her family about this effort.
Look, Wayne, look what's going on, what's happening. Isn't this great? Look at these people who are willing to do these things. I don't have him there beside me to do that.
Volunteers plan to have the church finished for a special service on April 19th, the anniversary of the fire. Near Waco, Laura Martin, Channel 8 News.
RebuildAchurch.com. There it is, folks. A blank check already signed. Hey, let's go to Mexico.
A lot of thought and effort has gone into the construction of this church. It's going to cost them exactly $101,000. They've even gone as far to put in this long ramp for handicap needs. The Branch Davidians are also looking forward to their trial date in May, when they will present a federal lawsuit against the government for wrongful death of those Branch Davidians that perished on Mount Carmel 7 years ago. And a recreation of the battle that took place here will be done this spring at Fort Hood. And this is part of the civil suit against the government where they want to use infrared technology called FLIR to prove that the government did fire.
The fire that burned the Branch Davidian compound to the ground is sparking a government investigation some are calling biased.
To investigate, Reno. That's a real question.
Sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
Could I have
You're not going to answer the question about Reno, huh?
These rounds were like rockets coming through the windows, breaking the glass and flying past your head, and they were firing.
Duell says he doesn't trust the FBI's reports and that he's skeptical of the attorney representing the Branch Davidians' families. He feels Michael Cabell has too many government ties to handle the case. Cabell is taking a wrongful death lawsuit against the government to court in mid-May. Both he and the government's defense attorney assure a fair trial.
I think they're interested in getting at the truth. I don't think they have any preconceived notions about how this test should come out.
A federal judge today ruled no video from this simulation be released to the media.
The 7th anniversary of the fire at Mount Carmel is fast approaching, and for the past 6 months, volunteers have been working on a new church, preparing for this year's memorial. Today, they were out in full force putting on the finishing touches. News 25's Matt Flory has more on the story.
It's a busy day at Mount Carmel for the simple reason it's the last weekend at Mount Carmel before this new church was expected to be complete.
Insulation is being put up underneath the church right now. The finishing touches is being put on the church at this time. It is beautiful. Custom made, everything is custom made inside. It's beautiful.
On April 19th, 1993, fire destroyed the first church and killed more than 80 Branch Davidians. So in September of last year, volunteers from Central Texas began building a new one. They've been working to make sure it's complete for this year's anniversary and memorial service. And today was the last full day volunteers could help complete the church before April the 19th.
I mean, we've had people from all over the country that have come. We've had people that have sent donations from all over the country, and it's a real shot in the arm to know that that many people care, that many people are concerned with what happened here and want to, you might say, make a statement by helping to rebuild.
Most of the work is done, and the church will be ready for the anniversary. Today, volunteers are working on the landscaping while others are cleaning windows. It's an effort that began with radio talk show host Alex Jones, who started the project by recruiting people on air, and that has continued.
Each week, I put out the word for what we need, and people always come through. Some weeks we have more materials than we even have time to put up.
This Wednesday on the anniversary, more than 1,000 people are expected to be here at Mount Carmel for two different reasons. First of all, they'll be remembering everyone that died during the 51-day siege. And second, they'll be dedicating this new church, even though it's not completely finished just yet. I'm Matt Flory for News 25 at Mount Carmel.
Today, volunteers from Austin and, in fact, all over the state of Texas finished the new Branch Davidian Church near Waco. It's scheduled to reopen this week, exactly 7 years after a deadly siege on the compound. KI's Pamela Cathion was there today.
For volunteers who are rebuilding here, the new Branch Davidian Chapel is a reminder of more than 81 Davidians who died.
This is kind of like picking up the pieces and carrying on, you know.
But for many others, the church is a reminder of a painful past. The new chapel stands in the exact spot where a 51-day standoff took place in April 1993, a standoff between Branch Davidian leader David Koresh, his followers, and federal agents. The siege ended in a fiery raid where several federal agents and Davidians died, some from gunshots, others from the fire. Sheila Martin lost her husband and 4 children.
This is my oldest son. He was 20.
Even with the new church standing, there are still reminders of the 1993 siege all over this complex. Davidians say a tank ran over this trailer during the raid. But as surviving Davidians rebuild, they also face a federal trial. They have filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the federal government.
Alex, I've been wanting to come down here for the last 6 years, and it just so worked out this weekend. I didn't know it until a couple days ago, but I got an opportunity to come down here, fly down, and I'm really glad I got to make it. I don't get to stay very long. I have to fly out today, but I come down here and met a lot of new people, real nice people. I knew what I was going to meet when I got here anyway. It's no surprise. But all these people out here volunteering to help these Davidians rebuild this church, and I think it's great. You know, the federal government, they like to go out and destroy, and these people are out here building, and that's the difference between a bunch of good folks and a bunch of bad ones. You know, they're on all of us, after all of us, to pay our tax dollars, and I can tell you what those tax dollars go for. They go for our own destruction. And this, the Branch Davidian Mount Carmel here was just an excellent example of what I'm talking about. if people can't see that, then there's no future for them. And that's what I feel about it.
And you know, it's been done by all volunteer and all donations.
Yes, sir, that's true. Well, that's beautiful. That's the way the people think like I do. That's the way we think and believe. Nobody's taxing anybody. They want to come out and help, that's great. They're here. You can see that. Doing a great job. Bo Greitz was up there working on it a while ago, and he said, oh, there's Weaver. He built a cabin. He can help us build. I said, yeah, I think these people are more particular than what I was.
And you know what the model of this is? You burn it, we build it.
Absolutely. I haven't seen that, no.
It's on the back of a lot of these cars.
Well, that's great. If I can find one, I'm going to take one home, put it on my truck.
Well, we got 500 and they're gone now.
Yeah.
We ordered some more.
Now, this is great. I'm having fun this weekend. My wife is upset. She couldn't come down, but we got 3 little kids at home yet, and she'll forgive me. I'd come down here yesterday, and I'll be home tonight, so we'll be back down sometime to visit, and hopefully bring the kids with us.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, you're great. We're glad you came.
Thank you very much. You got to stand up for and be willing to die. You know, freedom isn't free, and this is a perfect example right
Well,
here.
people keep asking me, they say, why are you doing this? This is dangerous. You know, I say, hey, all they can do is kill us.
Getting on the freeway, yeah. Getting on the freeway is dangerous.
And and of course you know that more than anybody, don't you?
Yeah.
Now, when they want us to jump through their hoops and all that, they're not my God or my creator, or they're not my boss or anything else. They're nobody to me, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Right.
nobody. They want to be somebody's. They want to be Wyatt Earp and Bill Hickok and all that, and they want to come out and just kill people. They're murderers is what they are. They're liars and murderers, period.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't think I'd live long enough to see this militarization of the police, but it's happening all over, and not just here, but the world. So, death to the new world order.
The government is, just like Alex Jones says, the government blows up their own building so they can spend over $30 million in an edifice to Bill Clinton's success. And out here, the people have helped raise the Branch Davidian Church, and they have contributed their own money. And yet I think what we've done here is far more meaningful and valuable, at least in spiritual terms, than the Alfred P. Murrah building will ever be. So
Yes,
I think it's ironic, and I think it's appropriate that they have the dedication on the same day. Because all the staff pukes, politicos will be at the memorial to Bill Clinton, $30 million, and all the quality people, you know, God's people will be out here. So
I love it.
Yeah, y'all are from the Michigan State Militia?
That's right.
Yeah, and y'all came down for the dedication of the New Mount Carmel Church?
Sure did. Sure did.
And why did you do that?
Well, we felt it was part of our duty to come down, talk to the people, ask for their forgiveness for our inadequate response 7 years ago. And we had a plaque we wanted to present the
Structural engineer on the Joe Campana project in Austin and on rebuilding the church, this memorial church. God bless you, George Bullion. sure, where? He said, Waco. I said, what are we going to build? He said, a church. I said, okay. He said, it's going to be at Mount Carmel. And I said, absolutely, I'm in for it. So I drew up a set of plans, showed it to David Thibodeau, showed it to Clive. They really liked it. We started construction. That was about 32 weeks ago. So what you see here, since we only worked on the Sundays, really, is the results of 32 days of construction. Hundreds of volunteers, $92,000 of donated cash that came in $5 bills, $10 bills, and a few very, very special people that donated thousands of dollars. So what you see here is a result of America. Years ago, this is what we did. If we needed a church, the community got together and built a church. If someone needed a barn, they got together and built a barn. If we needed a house, they'd get together and they would build a house. So we were able to build a house of worship. Now, why in the world did we have to do this 7 years after the place was burned down? I, like hundreds of other people, watched the news back in April 1993. And I couldn't understand why the government was doing that to a group, to a religious group. They have different beliefs than I did. Does that mean that we're supposed to kill them? They have different beliefs than I do. Does that mean that we send tanks in? No. They have different beliefs. Does that mean that we're supposed to send in the CS gas? No. They have different beliefs. Does that mean that we have a sniper across the street that takes out a woman breastfeeding her baby? No. No. Why has the American people allowed the federal government to do that to its people? I haven't been able to figure that out yet. But I sit back and I look and I think if the government can do that to the Branch Davidians, they can do it to the Baptists, they can do it to the Lutherans, they can do it to the Catholics, they can do it to the Jews, they can do it to the blacks, they can do it to the Mexicans, they can do it to anyone. And the only way that we can stop it is we have to stand up for what's right and build churches and build houses and build barns and build this nation back. I would personally like to thank everyone that was involved in the rebuilding effort. Unfortunately, I don't have their names all memorized. But I know that they have come from everywhere. Mike has them memorized. He's going to read them all to us starting right now. But literally, like Alex said, it's taken thousands of volunteers. And there's one little bitty story that I would like to relate to y'all as I get ready to close here. I am personally believing that the hand of God has rested over the top of this building. And one little key that I can remember is from basically day 2 of construction. Without getting into massive details, we drew up the plans. We had 150 some odd people out here ranging in age from about 4 to 80, digging holes for the footings, for the foundation for this building. The building, by the way, is built on a good foundation. I designed it. If y'all look around the side of the building, there are these cylindrical pieces of concrete that are holding the building up. And underneath that is a large pad of concrete. It's about 3 foot by 3 foot square. We needed 58 what are called sonocubes. It's just a cardboard form that creates the cylinders for the concrete to be poured into. We needed 58 of them. Alex put out the call. Says, we need 58. I brought 4, someone else brought 2, someone else brought 1. You know how many were donated? 58. 59.
I want to go ahead and bring Mike Hansen up here. He was also instrumental in building Joe Campana, the World War II veteran, a new home. And Mike has just given selflessly, along with many others, but especially Mike and George. And Mike has been the volunteer coordinator, sometimes getting hundreds of phone calls a day to the hotline in Austin, Texas, on top of the 2 jobs he performs, going home late into the night, calling people, getting up early in the morning, calling people, coming home at lunch to call people, out here several days a week, getting the material staged for the work on Sunday. It's just wonderful. And Mike's going to try to thank a lot of the people that help, but it's impossible. We're talking over 1,200 individuals that we've actually counted, not to mention folks who have come out and just given us a hand for a few hours. Mike Hansen, my cameraman, my buddy for 7 years. Mike Hansen, come up here. God bless you.
That's why we let Alex do the speaking. First of all, I want to thank God who brought Israel out of Egypt and made it possible for us to be here today together. These people were some of the best people I've ever met in my life. And what they have slandered, they have been slandered, and they have been put false witness on, and that's one thing. If anything would, and also the people that are in prison, they need to come out. Building project. I would hope that the 7 that are still in prison would come out, and also that the American people would find out what the real truth is about the Davidians. They are some of the nicest people, God-fearing people I have ever met in my life.
But the point is that we're going to run the flag up again. The America that I grew up in, it was big enough for all of us. And all this effort, this entire effort here, has made me feel good about America again.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I was first told that I was just to stand here and start to say anything. I think after 7 years, they make it sound as if you're supposed to have gotten over everything, and it's supposed to be just something that you went through and it's to go on with the line. 7 years later, it still hurts. 7 years later, we still look at our pictures. We still think of our children and other people. But most of all, I think of the pain that they must have gone through. Coming here and standing before you, there's nothing compared to the time that they spent, those mornings, and those hours in the gas and the flames. You know, you always feel almost like you were there with them when the flame was burning. I want to thank everybody for everything. And I pray that all we see together and God brings us all home again. Thank you very much.
Here's the flag.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's backwards. All right. I want to thank Sheila Martin for words and allowing us to rebuild this church for all the Davidians, and of course Judith Vincent, known as Texas Lil, who's just done a great job. And you know, so much of this effort was possible because of talk radio. I broadcast on commercial AM and FM stations. We also transmit on shortwave, but the internet was really the big thing. And Judith has written some wonderful articles. And if people would like to see some of the photos throughout the process of rebuilding the church, just some of them, they're out on 2 boards out here a little bit later after this dedication. You can go out and look at them, and it's just a small piece of the different levels of construction that we went through, and it was just wonderful. It's just so sad that he and others have been demonized. We're just hoping to reverse some of that, because if they can surround a group of people, murder them, and then the general population says, well, they got what was coming to them and they never met him or never had any idea what really happened, then it can happen to any of us. And I say, never again. No more Wacos in America.
Never again!
Uniforms, the helmets, all of them. And believe me, the next time a Waco cranks up, if I can get there, we're not going to be building churches. People that don't even know it. Texans don't want. All right. I'm going to go ahead and, see, I'm flailing here. I get so angry. Knocking off the media's microphone. Maybe that's good. We know they're going to cut it up. No, that's all right. Some of you are good. It's that network news services with CBS, yes. ABC and Fox all at the CBS Broadcast Center doing all the work together, working. Don't hear a lot about that. Here in our controlled society, we're coming forward with the new media, just like the printing press and the Renaissance, and we're going to win. Victory is ours! All we have to do is take it on it. We can't stop it. Black oil, black relations, serving good leadership, as a leader of this new church. You're a wonderful man. God bless you, sir. And here are the keys.
Sometimes and telling everybody I love them, but I really mean it in God's way. I've consecrated my life to Christ since I was in my 30s, and so far I think I've been faithful, not because I'm strong enough, but because He is my strength. And I don't think I can do anything without Him. He is my husband and my all. I know most of you have been so grateful in your effort and sacrifice, and I appreciate it very much. And especially from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank Alex and Mike for being chief organizers of the work, George for being our jack of all trades, Scott for watching and keeping the place nice and watching over Indio the dog, and Paul for being so kind and trying to help me solve several problems and for providing the ride when I needed one. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. God bless Ophelia. One thing that Mike and Judy neglected to put into their figures when it came to the amount of money that has gone into this church, they were just talking about supplies. They did not figure in the thousands of hours donated by the various people that came and helped from weekend to weekend. And I appreciate everything that each one's done. Each one's done, the efforts that they've contributed.
Even now I still remember, and the feeling's still the same.
Sheila lost 4 of her children and her husband, and that, of course, is dedicated to those that she lost. And Sheila, God bless you. You still have family and friends, and just we're trying to rectify some of what happened to you.
He is hard-nosed, he's hard-boiled, he's tender. His name is Alex Jones. What's amazing is that this man is only 26 years old. Considering what he has accomplished and demonstrated in building this church, I believe that by age 36, he could become the youngest president of the United States. Is Alex Jones.
Victory is ours against the New World Order, against the communists and socialists and the bankers that run the whole filthy show. And now that they run the world, or at least the central hubs of power and the banking establishments and the dominant media, they plan to sack this country. Are you gonna let them? Feel your ancestors. These individuals, again, were testing you back in 93, testing you with the World Trade Center, with Waco, and then in 95 with Oklahoma, trying to scare you, run you off the cliff like a bunch of lemmings. But some Americans aren't lemmings. God bless you.
There's still hope of adding on to the church here, but with so many reminders of that bloody day 7 years ago, no one here could believe that you can think of Mount Carmel without thinking of that deadly fire. Olga?
Well, Joel, you mentioned those who helped in the construction of the church and those attending today's ceremony, but what about who will be going there to church on Sunday or hereafter?
Well, actually, many of the survivors of that fire were here today, and they've actually begun putting up temporary homes here on the site. Their ultimate dream is to move back out here and rebuild the compound as it was 7 years ago. Olga?
All right.
And it's historical, and it feels good to be a part of this.
Now, Branch Davidians say their flag flies again, and that's a signal of what they call an unlawful attack.
Back in April '93, 17 little children, all so helpless and so small, died a senseless death of gas and flames. How many names can you recall? 17 little children. Don't it make you wonder why? 17 little children. How could they deserve to die? Maybe we should stop and ask ourselves, have we become so blind? Will 17 little children finally open up your mind? How did you sleep last night, Bill Clinton? Tell me, did you feel their pain? As 17 little children cried out and perished in the flames. Attorney General Janet Reno, I accept your offer to resign. How can you stand for law and order now when you won't answer to your crimes? 17 little children, all so helpless and so small. 17 little children. How many names can you recall? Maybe we should stop and ask ourselves, it said the Branch Davidians only got what they deserved. Yet no one seems to know what laws were broken, what was in the warrant they never served. Yesterday I sold my TV set, stopped my subscription to the Times. To me it's plain to see the media was an accomplice to these crimes. 17 little children, don't it make you wonder why? 17 little children, how could they deserve to die? Maybe we should stop and ask ourselves, have we become so blind? Will 17 little children finally open up your mind? Open up your mind.
Even now, I have come so far. I wonder where you are. I wonder what is still so hard without you. Even now, when I come shining through, I swear.
Two other solutions all Americans and people globally should be aware of. Number one, we should all ask God for guidance and pray that he deliver this country and this world from these clutches of these degenerate dehumanizers. And number two, never turn in your firearms. Slaves are disarmed all throughout history. Please make copies of this tape, multiply them, or get original copies at 888-253-3139. It's a battle. Wake up to it. Knowing is half the battle.